Okay.
Then I need to accept though.
You're fine to. We're recording now, so
Oh,
we're
good.
good.
No, I was just
Okay.
said accetta. I had to accept.
Oh yes. Anyway, so good morning and good day, everybody, and I guess uh, it's great to have. Is it Liselotte?
Or
What?
Liselotte.
Liselotte.
Yeah,
Uh,
depends.
Liselotte Watkins, and I guess what would be quite nice from you is,
Mm.
I guess, a little bit of an understanding because I've seen your work, and I've seen your journey as an illustrator going through the pathways. So it would be nice for new people to kind of get a little bit of a background about you, your journey from education into fashion illustration
Wow.
as a whole.
Yeah.
Give us an overview. So let's have a bit.
Wow. I mean, I'm really old, huh? So it's a long conversation.
You're not
But
so old. You're not so old.
no, but okay, okay, so no, I started going, I left Sweden, yada yada. When I was 17, I went to the States. I went to high school, and then after high school, and then I was kind of acknowledged for being somewhat good at drawing, like pretty much for the first time. And then I went to a college in Texas where I did actually advertising. I did advertising and like graphic design and stuff because I had no idea what to do. So my school teacher was like, "You should go to this school." And I was like, "Okay." So I just stayed in Texas, and then after that, I eventually moved to New York where I started working as an illustrator because I never really I wasn't very good at the other stuff. So I kind of did illustration on the side because I've always been drawing, obviously. Drawing has been my thing. So I just kept drawing and drawing and drawing. And then I went to New York eventually, and then I just started working. I just kind of went with a bag. I mean, I didn't have anything. There was no, I mean, back then you didn't know anything. So I left for New York. I was staying at the YMCA for a while, and then I just kind of met people like you did. You went to a party and you met someone, and little by little, I mean, I was in my early 20s, so it was like you just kind of organically kind of got jobs somehow. It wasn't really a plan, you just had to like survive. So, but then eventually I kind of, got an agent and got going, and I stayed in New York for a long time, and that was that. And then because it was New York and because it was fun and because fashion was something that was kind of more accessible back then. You could go and see shows and you got in touch with people, and through going out you met people. So I just kind of, and I always kind of liked fashion, so I started kind of looking at people differently and going to shows, and I kind of picked it up. It was not like a plan to be a fashion illustrator because back then also I did a lot of other illustrations because I had to pay my rent. So but then slowly I kind of narrowed it down to just doing fashion. And then I moved to Sweden, eventually back to Sweden. And then that kind of was what I did. And Sweden at that time, in the late 90s, I can't even remember, but it was very energetic and there was a lot of new fashion. Acne just started and it was just very, it was happening kind of, it felt very dynamic. So and then I was in Sweden for a while, and then from there I just kind of moved on. I never had a strategy about this. I think you just have to be emotional about what you do and kind of it just leads you places. Just I was just very curious, and by myself. So I had to make it work. That was it. There was
Yeah,
no other option.
I guess what was quite nice in the beginning before the internet is you had
Yeah.
to be quite aggressive in going around and making things happen
Yeah, but the
and
thing
meet
was
people.
I don't think you had to be very aggressive. You just had to show up. You know,
Yes,
you
well, you
were
had to
just
be
there.
dedicated. You had to be passionate, and you had to
Yeah,
get off your ass and
yeah,
get out.
exactly. You really had to be. I mean, which I think is probably. I mean, in a way, it's much more practical these days because you don't really have to be there. For
Yeah.
me, it was more about being there, and I was there at a time when there was a lot of stuff going on, and people were also. It was just we were playing. It felt much more like play those days.
Mm.
Maybe it wasn't so much money or so much, I don't know, and it was slow. It was very slow. You waited for the magazines to come out. You waited for it took a lot of time to work back then.
Yeah, I guess that you were excited when there was something to be printed in the magazine. You would
Yeah.
wait, and you were
And you
like,
kind of,
right, great,
well,
it's
yeah.
published, and
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
think that's I guess a little bit it's gone a little, but magazines are still bubbling around.
There. Yeah, yeah, of course.
And it's nice to be sort of in print and in published stuff. But let me just share. I just want to share because you haven't seen it, but it's sort of a mix of old work and new work. So
Yeah, this is really old.
let me just move it over here.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah, well, I guess it's nice and not nice sometimes to see old work.
It's like old
Um,
friends, you know.
yeah, and how were these created? These pieces were they draw?
I don't keep anything, so I don't have any of these. Like I have nothing. I have no. I'm so like I have no archive. So when I see things, I haven't seen them like since I kind of made them. This is made I drawing with the pen on paper, and then I scan them into the computer, and then I colored them. I always used to color them in Photoshop because I was sharing a studio with photographers, and I remember like learning. The photographers taught me computer, and they didn't know any other program than Photoshop. So I never worked in anything else. I was always working in Photoshop. So they're done in Photoshop.
So
Colored in Photoshop.
you hand drew them and then just colored them all in Photoshop.
And then I just scanned them in, and kind of fix the lines. But I remember trying to work in Illustrator, but I didn't like what they did to my lines. I liked when the lines were like I had drawn them, you know.
Yeah.
So, and it was a problem when you had to make them big, because the lines would of course end up being completely pixely because it was Photoshop. So I remember having problems, for example, when I was working with Asia, they wanted to make like huge billboards, and they were like, oh, but you can just do it in Illustrator. And I was like, I don't know how to work in Illustrator. I never done that. I mean, I just didn't like it really. But there was definitely a limit to how big I could make these pieces, you know.
Yeah, I guess the scanning side of it, but if you
Yeah.
get a good illustrator person, they could probably help you fix these. And
Yeah, I know. I mean, now, I mean, this is so long ago. This was like,
yeah,
I mean, I don't.
early Photoshop days.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
I found some of these pieces. So these pieces I'd seen in lots of books and
Yeah,
heard
and
different
this is my friend Frida. She's Frida Gustafsson. She used to be a model. Now she's an actress. And I drew her a lot back then. She used to pose for me, and then I just took pictures like with my. I don't even know if I took it with my phone back then, but and then I would just dress her up and put her in different environments. You know.
Oh,
She,
good.
she
And would you just make the environment up, like you'd
yeah,
find reference and
yeah,
then just
yeah.
put it in?
Yeah, always. I always just, I mean, that's how I always done it. I always used to make the clothes up. I mean, I don't know if these, now this is for L. I don't know if I made them up or if I think this is not like any fashion. I think I just kind of made it up. I don't
And,
remember.
and also, I guess what's because they still when you look at them now, they feel so now. They feel quite current. They feel it's
That's a
quite
nice
good.
compliment.
No, if
You
you
know
look,
what? I think maybe they're so old that they have kind of passed that, like when they feel like they've gone through being not modern and then they feel modern again, you know. Um, because I mean, but this, yeah, but I mean, I've always, and the birds, yeah, the birds. I don't know where. I think I saw a book somewhere with birds, and that was not published anywhere. I don't know if I used it or maybe something. I don't remember. But I've always, I mean, the thing you have to do, I think, especially when you work as a commercial, whatever illustrator, you have to just keep drawing. I mean, I was always drawing. Like even if I didn't have work, I just drew, you know. I looked around, I looked at books, I looked at stuff, and I just drew and drew. I just always kind of showed up at work. And even if there was nothing going on, you just draw. You know, that's what you do. And then eventually things happen, and because it's like you can't stop, you know. If you
yeah,
stop, then it's not
it
good. It's not
ends.
good to pick it up again.
If you stop, it ends. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but also like you lose it. Like I feel like even if I have vacation for 2 weeks, when I go back, I'm like my hand needs to kind of get going
Yeah.
again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It takes at least 3 days just to get one good drawing, and then
Exactly,
you're back
exactly.
in the
But
mode.
that's also fine. I mean, I think also like when you do stuff just for yourself, it's fine that it's bad. It's fine that you just do stuff that's ugly, or everything leads to something, you know? So I think I've always been just kind of, I mean, in like the interiors, like for a while I was just doing interiors. I didn't even know why I was doing interiors. I was just doing interiors, interiors, interiors. And then one day it just came, I was like, oh, I mean, I just put them here. And then you just kind of, it's like you have your own little library in your head of things you can draw, you know? So
And the styling of it, did you add them? Are they made up, or were they?
yeah. No, I never style people. It's so like, I mean, it just takes so much time and it's so boring, you know? And then like having to like log, I'm not a stylist. I don't log around like cases of clothes for people to put on, and then they're too small or too big, and it's like it just becomes a hassle, you know? So I never ever styled people in clothes that were actually there,
I,
you know?
I
And then,
I think that's the issue sometimes with the illustrators. They just, I don't want to deal with all the rubbish, so I'm just
yeah,
going to draw it and I get it done.
yeah.
Whereas stylist, there's a huge process.
Of course, but then I think it's also, I mean, but the thing was, I think if you're going to be a fashion illustrator, you have to know your fashion. Like you have to go see the shows, you have to go to the resees, you have to see it, you know, because otherwise you don't know how it's gonna fall or how it's gonna look, and you don't know the vision of that creator. Like if you've gone enough and seen enough Comme des Garçons shows, you know how much volume there is, you know.
Yeah.
Or if you've seen a Prada skirt, you know exactly how that Prada skirt feels when you know. It's like you have to be really passionate about it. So just drawing it, you have to have that feeling also, you know. So you really kind of have to like fashion in a way, I guess, you know. But you don't have to be a stylist, and you don't have to take that job also, you know. Or like I did, like the hair and makeup, you know.
But you don't realize that there is a combination of things here, because like an art director, you have added a style to it. You've added a color, you've added a palette, you've made decisions. So a lot of illustrators do move it, they move quite nicely into being designers, because
Yeah.
they have that sensitivity to color, style, attitude. And you see so many illustrators move across. So you
Yeah.
think about the mood, the whole way that the person's looking at you. You could almost picture it from a photography point of view as well.
Yeah, I think
Your
that's, I mean,
attitude.
I mean, it was very, very, because I was also working when I was sharing that studio with all these photographers. I used to go with them and I used to look at when they came back from a shoot, I would always like look at them, like editing the pictures, like which one would they pick, you know? And I just really learned so much about like, it's like, that's how I always felt, like you have to get that one shot, you know, or that one look, like why is Frida looking at me like this? What am I trying to get here? You know, it's a pretty girl, but I just wanted her to, I wanted it to feel like something, you know. So photography is really, really, it's really good to hang around photographers if you want to make good fashion illustrations, really.
Yeah. And what sort of photographers would you aspire to now, or then, if you were like, because I was a big Paolo Reversi fan, some
Yeah.
photographers, like, I guess probably you're similar. But,
Yeah, I mean, I was also always looking at, I really, because the photographers that they were very young at the time and they were doing really funky stuff, you know, but I think that they would also go back to like, even like they were like 22 and did like crazy stuff for like crazy magazines. They would still go back to like the Avedon and pen and look at the way that they, you know, the posture, or like how they would hold their hands or how they would turn their face. So how the light would hit. And so I think it's like, even if you just study, like with everything, just go do your research, you know, study
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
It just helps a lot, you know, oh yeah.
And then moving on to this, so you're sort of, this was sort of a eureka moment, I guess, where you hit the big
Yeah.
time. I think.
Yeah, this was when I was back in Sweden, and these are all my friends on the clothes are all my friends at the time, that are girls that I knew. And this is Maria here in the middle, and then it's Stefania down here with the yellow. So I had already done the illustrations, and they were in a book. And somehow I think that Rem Koolhaas saw them, or I don't know how it happened, but the funny thing is that because it was so slow back then, I don't even know if it was style.com. I think style.com existed, but I didn't go to the show. And I remember a friend of mine who was in Milan at the show, and she called me because I had no idea like what was going to become of the stuff I had sent to them at Prada or yeah, Miu Miu. But so I didn't know anything. I didn't know what they were doing. I had no idea. I mean, I have worked with them a lot since then and more involved in the process, but this was just, I just sent off the stuff and they just did something, you know? So when I finally saw it, I was like, I didn't know if it was going to be a t-shirt or socks or whatever, you know? So
Wow.
yeah, that was fun.
And Rem Koolhaas to find it as well, which is quite cool. So from
Yeah, I
another,
think it was, I mean, I really, I mean, this is like 15, 16 years ago, but I think they were in a book with like collected works or something. And he somehow saw the book and Mrs. Prada was into doing something like, I mean, I don't know, but yeah, it ended up being like, yeah, I think it was beautiful. I mean, they're amazing. I mean, they're just, it was very, I mean, but it was really before they actually, they hadn't really done any collaborations in the past. So I didn't really know what to expect, you know, from them.
I think they went on to do a mixed a match of different illustrators that helped build the sets.
Yeah.
Koolhaas is almost, he is in the part of the DNA of the brand of the structure and architecture and the design. And he was thinking about illustration being part of the environment. So
exactly.
It's great to see such a cool architect embracing illustration as well.
I know. I mean, no, but that was the following years were really, because then I actually moved to Milan the year after, and I started going to the shows, and all the shows that followed, if it was Prada, I mean, they were really, I mean, it was beautiful, amazing, like the fairies, and I mean, it was a crazy good. And then that kind of passed, but I think it was a really good moment for illustrators, definitely.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And then I picked these up, which I thought were quite an interesting.
Yeah, funny. Yeah, that's so fun. No, I mean, then what happened was that I just, these are like exercise. I mean, I just started painting more and more. I mean, I always painted, but then I started painting more. And what I had to do in the beginning was to just really kind of I mean, I had to break everything down. I just broke everything down. I just had to stop making sense of things. So I broke everything down into the most graphic elements and using a lot of colors and just thinking about, I just simplified everything. And I just did not draw for years. Like I didn't draw with a pen because I was just so tired of drawing with a pen, you know? So these are just like, it's like rehubbing. I rehubbed myself, you know?
Yeah.
Completely. Which was so nice. It was like, it was so quiet. Everything just became so quiet, I think.
Because you've took away the line. I think the line's gone, and then it's like shapes, forms.
Yeah, exactly. And then I mean, and then gone with the eyes, those big eyes. I was just so tired of those big eyes. And then the hair and the lines, and I couldn't take it anymore. It's just too many lines, too many lines.
And what was your agent's feedback to that? Have you sort of?
I mean, I have to say that like throughout my whole career, I've always had like the most encouraging people around me. Like, I mean, I tried so many funky stuff. I've done like set design, and I used to be like whatever. And it's like, and anytime I've said something, and they were just like, okay, you just do what you got to do. You know, I think I've always had agents who, because I'm very energetic and I don't have a lot of patience. So my agents have always kind of tried to hold me back instead of like pushing me forward. You know, they were always like, oh, you know, so then I was like, I just need time and do this. And I was picked up by a gallery in Sweden. And then they were just like, okay, good. I mean, it's never been a problem, you know?
Oh, good. Because I guess another illustrator who's quite interested in Sweden is Laura Lane. And she's kind of switched from this sort of illustration to ceramics. And she's doing glassworks actually.
Right.
And I guess it's quite interesting to see how someone like her and like yourself, a big departure.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting. And then I kind of popped across these because these to me are like a hybrid of
Yeah,
a
these were actually,
fusion?
these are before. This is
Okay.
like, so the last slide where it's just completely,
Yes, just
you know,
before this, yeah.
this is yeah, this is when I just like the lines were there, but it's more you can see that it's like beginning to kind of disappear, you know. This was the right side with the coat was for Magnus, for a magazine called no, what's the magazine called? Oh, whatever. It was for a magazine. The other one was for a clothing brand that I did, where it was like a little GIF, you know, and the pattern that you end up having was a pattern also used for like textiles.
Yeah.
So it was like a mix match, but here you can see it kind of, the faces are fading, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're deconstructing them, but I still think the essence is there, but you
Yeah.
see you're kind of decoding yourself.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny.
And I think it's nice to, yeah, because I think this slides would have been before actually, which is
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. You can understand it.
yeah. And then I guess the move from them sort of paintings onto ceramics.
Yeah, I think I think I have to say that this was more like an eureka moment for me, because this was just completely like, you know, I can just completely go off that place. I can just leave that place. And then I just had been collecting these. I had so many because, you know, because in that time I was of course living in Italy and I had moved to Rome. And I just kept finding these like these vessels everywhere because they're of course here in Italy very practical objects that you use to, you know, for olives or oil, or depends on what shape and size they are. But and I just collected them, and then I was just one day I just thought I just paint one, and then that was just really liberating. It was just really, it was so fantastic because I could hold it, and it was an object, and I could feel it, and it had a feeling to it, and it's really like, yeah. I mean, I haven't done them in a while. I haven't done them for 3 years or something, but I really, really love that. That was so much fun. And then I took them to Milan to a friend of mine, and she put them in her thing for Salone, and I didn't even know what I was doing, but she really liked them. And then from there, it was just a thing. Then it became a thing, you know. And then I had a few shows with just the ceramics, and it was also like people were really, I mean, I had no idea what people were going to think, but I mean, it was very positive, and I just kept going with that. And then that kind of went over, and then I came back, and it just kind of keeps going, you know, back and forth.
And the lifespan, would you say it's probably 2 to 3 year lifespan each?
When did I do these first? Yeah, I think I started doing them like 6 years ago, and then I did them for like 3-4 years. But I mean, the last ones I did was for a show in Capri at the Villa San Michele, where I did an outside exhibition with a lot of ceramics, and that was I think that was like 3 years ago. So yeah, I did them for like 3-4 years. But I still pick up ceramics when I see them. I'm kind of, you know, keeping them as a thought. I'm not over it. No.
Yeah. And then I came across some of these. So I thought these have a bit more narrative based. I think there's a bit more storytelling in these.
Yeah, because then then I felt that it was like, because I kind of like, I went through that like dehubbing, and then I was kind of got back, and then stories felt interesting again. Like I wanted to have, I mean, got really into objects again. I always really liked objects, and I always collect objects, and I always keep like big storages with like, you know, stuff, you know, and I thought I'm just going to take out my objects and see what that kind of leads to. And then the women came back, and they were kind of weird. And I didn't really know who they were, but I don't even know. I don't even know how I made them like that. I mean, this is like what, 3 years ago? I think this is 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But they just took their place somehow. They were just there, like knocking on the door. I didn't really know that what they were thinking, but they were there. It's just like it just happens, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I love the use of symbolism. I think you don't realize history is now coming into the work.
Yeah, exactly. Now, and also I have to say that I have to really say that living in Italy, like I lived in Rome for 5 years, and then and then now we live in the country in Tuscany, and very close to Florence, and and it doesn't matter, you get that, like it becomes, I mean, I just been to so many museums, seen so many shows, and then you go around to the markets, history is just so deep here, you know, and the objects and the symbolism and the religion and everything means something. So it's kind of, it was impossible not to kind of get that into my system, you know.
Yeah, no, amazing.
And then being Swedish is also very fascinating because you have no idea what it means also. So
yeah, but I guess Swedish people are good storytellers.
maybe because it's so dark and we have to keep telling stories to survive.
Yeah, and because you know, when I've had students that are from Sweden or even Scandinavian countries, they're great at narrative building.
Really?
Yeah, they're very good narrators. And I think from a storytelling point of view, they think about stories, and they're very, I don't know, they connect really well with Italians anyway. And
Yeah.
I don't know why, but there's a real sort of respect level, because the Swedish students would always have a high expectation.
Yeah.
And Italians have high expectations for design. So I think that's probably why they come together so nicely, is the high quality levels. And I
that's
think
interesting.
where the British, we're much more punk and much more carefree, and oh, there's something on the floor, we'll stick that on us and that's good enough. And so we're a Swedish person go, you can't do that.
No, that's not allowed. That cannot be allowed.
No, so they're much cleaner and neater. Even though I know a lot of the Swedish students like coming to London to study, but they have a very focused attitude to the ways of working.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they kind of connect quite well. And then
I
guess the reason why I've come back to you a few times to get you to speak and get involved was sort of these came back. And this for me a real combination of all what you've been getting up to, and now bringing it back together as a sort of a great volume of work. I thought these are really good.
Yeah. They are. I mean, because they feel, I mean, for me, they feel like something else, you know. I always try to look for that something else, but it's exactly the same idea. It's friends, people I know, taking the picture, meeting up, having a good time, you know, dreaming, making a fantasy, just pairing them together with, you know, clothes, but not necessarily clothes that are, you know, flashy. It's like them. I try to enhance their personality. I try to match the clothes to the women, you know. So it's like Flaminia, which is here in Comme des Garçons, she just fits, and Louisa is very, she always, I mean, she also always wears Prada, but she is extremely chic and, you know, like that. So I try to make them justice. I try to make them, I'm not more beautiful, not anything, just them, you know. But I really wanted, again, like same thing like with Frida, I wanted her to be her, you know, also not pretending to do something else, you know. It's like this is the women, they're like this. And then of course I'm not the best portrait. I mean, they look somewhat, I mean, they do look like themselves, but maybe a bit different, you know.
But it's your interpretation of them. And
I mean, same, but also like the same thing, like that, like we were talking about before, like with photography, you take pictures and then you edit, and then you look for the picture that goes along with the story.
And what was the briefing for these? What was the brief?
Oh, it was the best brief. You can do whatever you want.
So what when they came to you, obviously, because you're going for all these different channels and ceramics and abstract and folk, and then this is kind of like an amalgamation of it all. How did they know what you were going to create, or did they say we really like this stuff? Or
no, I don't like that anymore. You just have to trust, you know. I'm too old to you know, to send sketches and stuff, you know. Either you trust me or you don't, you know. So they just said, we have these many pages, and I said, okay, I want to do this. And then they said, okay, can you send some pictures of the women you're thinking about? And then I said, I want to do these. And then they were like, do you need a stylist? And I was like, no. And I said, I'm just going to meet them and then we'll see what happens.
Wow. Wow.
But then it becomes an emotional thing. And I think if you're not emotional about it, then, I can't, I'm, like I said, I mean, I did my years, like, getting like staff briefing, pictures to do, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I can't do that anymore. It's like, then I just don't do it. It's just like, no, I don't want to do it then, because then it doesn't become fun. I mean, this should be fun. That was my only thing. Like, if I can do whatever I want, then I do it. Otherwise, no.
And was the objective that it had a fashion
Yeah, that was the only thing they were a little bit worried about. They were like, but it's going to be some sort of fashion. I was like, yeah, I will do fashion. I promise it will be fashion.
Yeah, because I like, and this is what I was going back to, is about the styling. Look at the way you've almost styled them, like you were saying, Comme des Garçons, having that understanding of fashion. She's in Prada, and the way they both stand, the sort of Prada pose, very proud, strong woman, and then you've got the sort of more of avant-garde looking into the camera, almost stripped back. And the hair is very smartly done. So there's a lot of styling there. I think you've underestimated the skill.
But actually, no, I was very lucky also, because Flaminia, she that's her hair. I just made it longer. Like, I just exaggerated it. I mean, but that's definitely her. And it was so easy. Like, this was too easy. They were too good. These women were all too good. There was just like, it was just giving me on a platter. It was just, but then I mean, the only thing I did was like, I picked that picture where I knew that it would work with that outfit that I had in my mind, even when I saw them. And then, I mean, it's like, I don't know. I mean, it would have been funny if they were all naked, but I mean, that's not, maybe that's not going to be for Vogue though.
Well, you never know, but
you never know.
I think these were, the most recent work, and we were talking about likability factors on Instagram. So how have you found your experience on social media?
Oh God, I you know what? I don't know. I use it a lot. For me, it just started out kind of also that thing, like, very personal. Like, I just keep it as a kind of, because I'm so not nostalgic about my work and what I do, and I don't keep much. I kind of use it as like, I go back and I look at stuff that I've done, and it becomes almost like a memory, thing, and then it's always been very positive for me also, with people that contact me, and I gotten to know really interesting people, and so it's like, I don't have any negative feeling about it. I really don't feel stressed about it either. I don't really take it, I probably should, but I don't really take it that serious, I have to say. I'm a very analog kind of person,
Yeah.
So, but I think it's definitely fantastic if you can get in touch with people, and people can see your work, but I haven't really gotten that many job opportunities through it. More people that I like and that I get to see and hang out with, so I mean, people just tend to be very, very positive when they contact me, and it's kind of fun. And a lot of young people, of course, that ask for things, like ask for advice, or how do you do this, and how do you go about, and how do you blah blah blah. So it's like that kind of channel. I like it as,
Yeah, brilliant. And are you doing anything interesting at the moment that you can share?
I'm preparing a show. I'm having a show in May, which feels a long time away, but then that's the thing when you do, when you work, like, I work here in deep country, and then I have to frame and send, and it just you have to be very good at like planning. That's the thing where, as an illustrator, I was always very, like, I just did things like last minute, waited, and now you just have to like go work every day. I go from I work every day in the studio from like 8 to 5, painting, because otherwise nothing happens.
Yeah, and is the show similar to these pieces, or what is it?
No, it's actually, I did a show this summer in a small church here in Tuscany, where it was, I've been concentrating more about the objects now. I've left the women behind again, so I'm going into like books and objects and just history, a lot of history. So this was very welcome for me, because this kind of got the women again. It was fun. I got to interact with women, and I did my women, and then I could go back to the art where it was just very, very quiet. It's very quiet, you know. So there's no fashion going on.
And it's funny because I hear a lot of people they disconnect the
Yeah,
commercial work from their artwork.
yeah,
Where I for me personally, when I saw these, I thought you were nearly you're getting in the moment of the mixing of the two. The
yeah,
art is coming through, even if they're stylized. I still feel, because there's lots of illustrators who are now moving into art,
yeah,
and I think we're now starting to accept that illustrator artists are more or less the same, rather than illustrators over here, artists over there. There's
yeah,
a real mix of the two, and I feel that with these works, I feel that they are becoming much more artistic. And
yeah.
it'd be great to see a show of this. I feel
Yeah.
there's potential here. Whether you're going to do it or not, God knows. But I
You know,
think
because
it's lovely.
now when you said it, I'm definitely not going to do it, because that's how my brain works. Just kidding. No,
I
but
know I was cursing you.
no, but I mean the thing. No, but what I like, what was of course really nice about these is that they're very, very big. I painted them very big. So, and that was also the first time that I could really, because when you do things like this, when you're back to paper and, you know, brushes again, you could do it because you shoot it in the end. So it had nothing to do with the computer, and that's what I always kind of, it felt very liberating also to do it, just completely just paint it. So, but I think that it's like, I think people now are kind of, I don't feel that people are kind of niching themselves so much anymore. I hope people don't, because it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to choose, you know, like before it was different. I think before it was more like you were either or in a way. Now people just do whatever. They don't care, you
Yeah,
know?
good. So I think that was my last slide. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so because I didn't want, you're a busy person, so I was just happy to get you and listen to you. And
Not that busy. I'm just sitting here painting.
no, but it was nice to kind of get you and have a chat, and because I've seen your work in books and I've seen it over the years, and I thought, and it was nice to see the journey.
Yeah.
And one of the main reasons I started this, because I'd worked as a fashion illustrator and I'd worked as an illustrator and taught fashion, and then to see people's journeys, and then to
Yeah.
see you kind of showing these new pieces. And I know I'd asked you about being a judge and you were busy, and I think it's great to get sort of fashion illustration with a little bit of a space to
Yeah.
have a dialogue. I think that's the problem, is there was not enough dialogue. It was just illustrators working everywhere and
Yeah.
no common space. So I think that was my sort of goal. So it's great to have you, and I know we're lucky to hear what you had to say today. And
Well, I hope so.
thank,
No, but
thank
I also think that if it's, I mean, I like you say, like if it's not a journey, if you're just working and not kind of going different roads, then what's the point? You know, I mean, I've been doing it for so long now that it would be kind of sad if it didn't amass to anything, you know. But I think that it's like you kind of have to take every once in a while, just take that little leap somewhere, because it's just, even if you just do it for a while and come back, it's just going to add something. So I think you have to be just nothing really. I think fashion is scary sometimes because you feel you have to be so in sync with the fashion world and what's going on. But you can really just go wherever, because I think that it just always adds something, you know. It could be whatever you want to put in there, I
Yeah,
think.
I think what's quite nice from what you were saying is you can go away and come back, and if it's good, it's good. If
Yeah.
it's good, people will appreciate it and like it. Like you're saying, the likes go up to 3,000 likes on Instagram. So it's quite interesting to see you kind of pop in, pop out, do this, experiment. An artist is a creative, and
Yes, exactly. And then I think it's like the likes, and then you do the likes on the Instagram. I think you have to also have that kind of relationship to it, that it doesn't matter.
no, it doesn't. But
It doesn't matter. I mean, you're happy if people like it, but then you just kind of go do your thing, you know.
yes,
Just do your thing. That's
yeah.
the most important thing.
As you'd say, likes don't pay bills.
No, they don't.
They
Well,
don't
for
take
some
it.
people, I think they do. I've heard.
Maybe, yeah.
So
So
I've heard.
we'll wait and see. But anyway, so thanks for speaking to us, and
Thank you so much.
it was
And
great to hear
keep
from
up
you.
keep up with the good work, you know, keep putting all those people out there for people to see, for the world to see, you know.
Lovely. Thank
Some good
you.
stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye.
day,
Bye
and we'll
bye.
speak to you soon. Bye bye.
Okay, bye bye.